Hey everybody, I'm a forever DM, never been a player outside of a few one-shots. My time is finally coming, and a player has offered to run the next campaign in our group. I am beyond excited, but as I come up with character ideas, I am overwhelmed by choice paralysis and the fear that I don't want to mess up my one attempt at a good campaign-long character. Death notwithstanding, of course. So, I wanted to ask the other DMs of the world. What was the first character you made after the Forever DM cycle broke? Did you regret the choice? If so, why? Leave yours down in the comments below. That said, the campaign I'll be doing is Curse of Strahd, which is something I've wanted to DM for years, so it will be interesting to actually play it. My favorite character option ideas so far are a halfling undead warlock. A mediocre actor makes a pact with a ghost to become great in his craft. Inspired by Stephen Toast Calcaron. Next up, we have a kobold scribe wizard who was a minion for a necromancer for many years, but is finally free to read the books he wants to read for once. And lastly, a dwarf phantom rogue. A jaded old detective dies and is resurrected with ghostly abilities, haunted by the case that he couldn't solve. Us D&D players can never really get enough. Whether you play 3 times a week or once a month, part of you always craves more. We get our fix however we can, by watching short stories online, D&D live streams, Baldur's Gate. Well, allow me to offer you something new. The best available follows a party of new adventurers trying to make a name for themselves in hopes of being sponsored in a competition. Waterdeep's Festival of Heroes, which sees the chosen parties delving into the depths of Undermountain, risking life and limb to suppress the evils and monsters below to protect the city above. The Dungeon of the Mad Mage is filled with danger, treasure, glory, and mysteries yet to be revealed. Come watch the journey from humble beginnings into heroic legend as we adapt a campaign years in the making into an illustrated web series with art from Doodle Poodle, author of Tales from the Tables. We pride ourselves in converting hours-long sessions into smoothly paced episode with limited animation, music, blood, sweat, and tears. Get in on the ground floor of something great and join the Forever DMs table today. Link in the description. In the rare instance where I find myself back as a player, I always find myself keeping it simple. Usually an elf wizard or a halfling rogue or human barbarian. Just real player's handbook vanilla shit. It's nice to just work on a silly voice and solving puzzles, not having to get too far into the weeds about builds or lore. And I find these basic characters end up sticking around or being more memorable than a lot of more flavorful stuff people spend ages on. I'm only responsible for my piece of paper, and I take it as a challenge to keep it as empty as possible. This probably says a few things about how I feel about DMing after all these years, but we're not going to get into that right now. Fenthwick Fizzlebang! A gnome illusionist, which is an old-timey archetype from the AD&D days. I never saw anyone actually play. He is just a happy, well-adjusted little guy who likes cracking a bad dad joke here and there and using minor illusion for silly pranks. Now, here is the actual funny part. He is trapped inside a Cthulhu-style Eberron mystery campaign where half the party are on the verge of a mental breakdown! And he has a curse that he has to challenge people to duels all the time. Oh, and he's only 3'2". I have no regrets. It's been fun, and the dragon mark of scribing has come in handy more than once. I played an elderly barbarian for a few months. The only thing my experience as a DM really influenced me on was that I did my utmost to respect the DM's effort and to be on time every session. Most of the others had various problems with scheduling, unfortunately. No one's fault in particular, really, but the group ended up falling apart because of it. So I didn't regret it, but once again, I felt more invested than the others besides the DM, and that's a sucky feeling. In 2 weeks, I will be playing as a PC for the first time. High five! Kaplap! My character is a goblin warlock who cosplays as Santa and likes to give presents. I can't wait to see what kind of presents. My DM style absolutely influenced my decision, as I like to play more character and roleplay focused games. So, I made my character with no regard for synergy or lore. It was pure flavor. Also, my stats are, in order, 4, 4, 8, 10, 14, 14. I can't wait. The very first time I found myself overcomplicating the mechanics of the character, and it turned out to be garbage. Too much mental energy spent trying to optimize my turns in combat, and not just playing the character. Next time, I'm gonna keep it simple. Perhaps play a support style and prop up the other players. Even out of the DM chair, I just want to see my friends succeed and tell a fun story. I made a Kalishtar Bloodhunter of the Undying Court for a level 3 one-shot. It was lots of fun. I spent most of the session not hitting at all, but when I did hit something, oh, it died. I'm a bit of a min-max player in video games, so when I made this guy for the one-shot, I made sure to be able to dominate, if I ever hit, while having helpful synergy with my buddies, who both went Battle Master. I had Eldritch Blast for ranged attacks, and if I used my Crimson Right, I had a minimum hit of, I think it was like 11? I'd have to double check, but it was more than what my buddies were hitting with their max rolls. So when I did come in to fight, if I landed a hit, the enemy was vaporized each time. Even landed a juicy back-to-back crit on the final fight of the one-shot. It made all the missed attacks worth it, and I still hung back enough to let our first-time player get the final blow on the big guy. I'm in the same boat as you. I've got a player who wanted to take the reins as DM, so my new PC will be introduced as we conclude her character story arc. I am so excited! I like being DM well enough, but I only do it because I want to play, and nobody else was willing to DM. This will be my first ever time being a PC. Aww. I tossed around the ideas for a wizard, a cleric, and a sorcerer. I really wanted a magic-based class. I love D&D for the magic and lore, so it makes the most sense to play a character that would be based in magic and enjoy the history of the world and the inner workings of the different factions. So I decided to play a forest gnome conjuration wizard. It's a relatively complex class, but I think I'll be able to play it well after getting used to running all the baddies and NPCs concurrently. I love the School of Conjuration for the potential creativity of the minor conjuration feature. Plus, it just feels cool tapping into extraplanar magic. It'll also be fun getting into lots of hijinks as a gnome using all the understanding of the game mechanics I have as a DM. My backstory has me being from the Feywild as part of a clan of forest gnome warriors in the service to the Seelie Court. I figure this way it'll make sense if I don't know a ton about the material plane, despite a high intelligence stat. But if we ever go to the Feywild, ooh, forget about it! I'll be able to help the new DM in the world building there and laying out the court politics. I like a balanced party. We were starting a campaign at work, and as usual, there really wasn't a healer. I come from 3.5 edition, where multi-classing is pretty much a given, and feats and skills are taken buffet style. This was my first game in 5th edition, so I rolled up a half-orc barbarian cleric build that I was very fond of, and then regretted it. I quickly learned that my character concept didn't fit the mechanics of 5th edition very well at all. At some point, the DM allowed me to swap out for a dwarf druid, yes, which was much more enjoyable. It was a brilliant halfling baker named Butter Biscuits. She was a peace cleric who didn't know what a cleric was at all. Her holy symbol was a gingerbread man named Mr. Tibbles. Her spells were all baked goods. Her trinket was doll full of needles named Ginger Snapped. She would often talk to her doll. Now, I don't regret it. It took a full year for me to actually tell my fellow players the class. Sadly, I didn't get to play her for long. The game died. I did make Ginger Snapped, She sits on my shelf. I don't talk to her, though. I played a Thri-Kreen Ranger fighter multi-class. We weren't playing Spelljammers, so I leaned way into the fact that they are an alien race. Mostly, this was to annoy my brother's wizard character, who was asking too many whys. Also, my character became an animal hoarder. Only 2 were good in combat, the rest just followed them around like a Disney princess. It was great! I have a chronic habit of making too many original characters when I daydream, though, and I often make character sheets for them too. Most are monster or beast races. Tieflings, tabaxi, kobolds, etc. I just think they're neat. I'm really new at being a DM. I decided since I don't have the courage nor the skill to make something serious, my games go the complete opposite direction. For example, my longest running campaign I've ever done, we did a scuffed version of Rime of the Frost Maiden. We decided to fight a Ural on the moon. We also fought the moon. Half the players are now flying through space for the rest of time. So my slightly abnormal personality definitely leaked into my character. The very first time I played D&D, it was a one-shot. After that, I decided to be a forever DM because it was something I enjoyed a little bit more. However, after my previous campaign had ended, I wanted to be a player for once, so I created a grave cleric tabaxi who left his wife and newborn son, with their blessing, after receiving a letter that his twin brother needed his help after being gone from their clan for more than 10 years. Now don't get me wrong, it was fun, and the other players really loved this character, but for some reason, I felt like I needed more of a reason to stay with the party, because my character was struggling to not want to leave, because he felt like his family needed him more than his brother. But it was also a chance for me to switch to another cleric that I played in my first one-shot, who was a tiefling war cleric, who was a bit of a coward and drunk hippie, who is against not only war, but also doesn't believe in the gods even though they're more present than ever. I enjoy playing as my war cleric a little bit more, but at the same time, I kind of want to go back to my tabaxi cleric. Both of them have great stories, personalities, etc. It's just me that's the problem. I don't feel like I'm as good of a player as I am a DM. Now, I've only been DMing for about 2 years now, but one of my players, a close friend of mine, recently started a campaign and asked if I'd like to join. So I made a Kenku Samurai, and it's mostly inspired by my admiration for ancient Eastern culture. I made sure to understand his world's setting before committing to this character, too. I don't regret it. I'm really enjoying seeing things from the other side of the table. It's a nice lapse of pressure from the typical session planning I'm now used to, but obviously still enjoy. His name was Luck of the Many Rivers. Triton Warlock. He used to be a half-elf with a subpar childhood, then got adopted by pirates, stolen by a sea hag, then basically adopted by a demigod of the primordial sea god, who proceeded to give him a new body that's a koi triton. Basically, horny bard but warlock, and his packed weapon was a Tommy gun, and he spoke in 20s slang, and was a jazz singer, and also very beautiful, and stupid. He turned out to be surprisingly very, very, very fun, and I'm very attached to him. He's pretty much addicted to sex and violence and is very loyal to his patron. Whereas most warlocks tend to want to break free from their pact, Luck does everything in his power and then some to stay as close as possible to his patron, who is also very devoted to him in a twisted, fucked up kind of way. We played another game set after the one with Luck, and at that point he'd canonically inherited his patron's power, even made a warlock subclass for him, and our party rogue was his daughter. The worst part about Luck is that he almost exclusively rolled 7s and 8s in combat. Across 2, admittedly short campaigns, he only ever hit maybe 10 or so attacks, half of which he rolled near minimum damage. It's been very frustrating for me, but I managed to twist it into some good roleplay moments with other players and NPCs. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know. Forever DMs, who was your first character when you broke this cycle, and how did you play him? Did you regret him? Would you make any changes? And do you have any suggestions for future Forever DMs? We love you all. See you next time. Bye for now.